big world out there. How y'all doing today? How are y'all doing on this Saturday? Yes. So I'm happy that it's Saturday. I am not happy about this heat. Like, I'm just so ready for some fall weather and some cold weather. I'm I'm so sorry that I looked at a 30-day forecast and it is going to be in the 70s and 80s until October 27th. Mm, 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 mm. Well, how y'all doing out there? I hope all of y'all had an awesome week. And if you didn't, no worries. You may have encountered some highs and some lows, but it's okay. We still want to thank God that we are here and we are in the land of the living. So, yes, it is Saturday and we in the first Saturday of October. You see how September came and just left us like that? Like, really? Seriously? These months are going. Like, I don't know if y'all are paying attention, but I remember when it was just April and it's like now October. Like, really? So, y'all know I like to kick the show off with some fun facts. And today's fun fact is going to be about Chicago, Illinois. I am going to be talking about the Noble Seymour Crippling House. Now, I knew nothing about this place. Nothing. That's why I like to do research, because you find out a lot when you read and you're doing research. So, the Noble Seymour Crippling House is widely considered Chicago's oldest existing building. They are located at 5624 North Newark Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. It was built in 1833. The south wing was in 1863. It was designated a Chicago landmark May 11th, 1988. Now, the owners of the house has a history of 3 families. That's how they came up with the name, the Noble Seymour Crippling House. So the first person was Thomas Seymour, a developer of the Norwood Park community. He lived there from 1868 until 1915 and added an Italianate addition. The Crippling family made later modifications and owned the house until the 1910s. The Norwood Park Historical Society acquired the home in 1987, now operates as a museum showcasing exhibits on local history and preserving the structure. I actually looked at one of their exhibits and they were exhibiting wedding dresses. And they had wedding dresses from back in the 1800s, the super early 1900s, and the look of those dresses to the look of the modern day dresses now, wow. I would still love to go back and have a vintage dress because they just never end. Now, the Clark/Ford house, that's still the same house, but that's the other family, right? So it was built in this is another house. I'm done with the Noble Seymour Crippling House. I done moved on to another house. This is called the Clark/Ford house. This house was built in 1836 for Henry B. Clark. The house shows what life was like for a family in Chicago during the city's formative years before the Civil War. I'm going to go visit that house because I would love to see just the foundation and the monument dated back from 1836. Like, I want to go exhibit that. And it's before the Civil War. After Mrs. Clark's husband passed away, Mr. Clark, aka Widow Clark, developed the surrounding family land during the 1850s, which fostered the neighborhood's growth and provided financial resources to complete unfinished portions of the house. Like all this was going on in the 1800s. Like this is amazing. From 1941 until 1970, Bishop Lewis Henry and Margaret Ford and the St. Paul Church of God in Christ congregation put much energy and repair into preserving the house. Their efforts paid off in 1970 when the house became one of the earliest buildings to gain local landmark status in Chicago. I definitely got to go see this place. Over the years, the house was survived 2 moves, a fire, and decades of unrelenting growth. Wow. This house is still standing after fires and everything. The house is now located at 1827 South Indiana Avenue in Chicago's Woman Park in the Prairie Avenue Historical District. Wow. So that was a fun fact. I'm sure some of you all probably know that already, but for some that don't, thank you for learning with me, because learning never ends. Like, this is so phenomenal. Like, really, it is. So, now, we're in October, so happy birthday to all the October birthdays. Happy birthday, y'all. I got some special birthday wishes I'm going to shout out first. October 1st was my Auntie Joyce's birthday, and I did text her happy birthday. Yes. October 5th, that's my sister's birthday, Benita, but I call her about it. October 7th, happy heavenly birthday to my father. October 8th is my auntie cousin Shan's birthday. October 23rd is a really dear friend of mine, C Styles. And October 24th is my big brother Kevin. October 30th is a friend of mine, Shawanda. And this gentleman, I love him so much. Like, I really, truly think he is my nephew. And I don't care what nobody say. Octavius with New City Taste. So happy birthday, everybody that's celebrating a birthday in October. Don't forget that if you get some birthday cake, feel free to drop me off a piece. I love buttercream icing. But hey, beggars can't be choosy, right? Now, we're still on a deadline. Excluding today, we have exactly 11 days before the individual 1040 tax returns are due. They are due October 15th. So we got 11 days, like 11 days, excluding today. Although it may seem like it's over, we still got a couple more deadlines, which is, of course, October 31st, which is going to be the third quarter 941 reports that's going to be due. And then we have estimated tax payments. And then, of course, we start processing and ending the year trying to get everyone's W-2s and 1099s out. So let's get ready for that. Please don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube channel if you have not done so already. Please like, love, and share the content. You never know who may need to hear this information. Okay? So, October is observed for so many things, right? The following awarenesses are for breast cancer, cybersecurity, domestic violence, National Disability Employment, National Book Month, and World Mental Health Day. It seems like no matter what month we in, there is always something related to mental health that goes to show you how important your mental state of mind is. You need to be in that mental space. As we observe these nations' awarenesses, this is an annual opportunity to recognize, reflect, and uplift the contributions of workers with disabilities and advance conversations about employment dealing with equality, access, and inclusion. So today's show is going to be for National Disability Employment Awarenesses. And over the years, I've had endless conversations with some people who may have had some disabilities and are afraid to work, don't want to work because they can't work for fear of this or fear of that. So it's like, what do you do? And you want to help them. So how do you help them? And there's resources out here that they are unaware of. So that's what our show is going to be about today. So let me give you some history about the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which is also abbreviated NDEAM, which is NDEAM. In 1945, Congress enacted a law establishing the first week of October as National Employ the Physical Handicap Week. The effort was surrounded by challenges for many disabled veterans returning after World War II. In 1962, the word physically was removed from the name to include people with all types of disabilities, both visible and invisible. In 1988, Congress expanded the week-long observation to a full month and changed its name to the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. In 2001, the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Disability Employment Policy, ODEP, was created and given the responsibility of administering NDEAM, including selecting its annual themes. So that's some history about the National Disability Awareness and how it started and how it came about. I found this very, very interesting, to say the least. So again, in this episode, we're gonna go through some financial lenses, looking at it from the NDEAM's perspective. We'll also explore how disability and employment intersect with money, opportunities, and how it faces challenges. We'll also talk about how to access and even the lack of access for employment efforts, benefits, wealth building, and broader economic inclusions. We'll also examine the role employers, policymakers, and communities play in creating the financial barriers or ladders for opportunities. Like the fact that the community can have an impact on this and join in says so much to me. I always talk about being invited to the round table. You know, if we got together as a community, we could create that round table so people would now take us more seriously versus us just congregating amongst each other. So again, like every show, I invite you to give feedback. I invite you to interact, ask questions, tell a story, whatever it is you feel comfortable doing. This is a safe space, and we talk about it all because, again, this too affects your finances. Everything starts and ends with the transaction. So let me just give you some stats when it comes to NDEAM. Individuals with a disability, the employment population ratio is 22.7%. The unemployment rate is 7.5%. People without a disability, the employment population ratio is 65.5%, and the unemployment ratio is 3.8%. Do you see the difference? Like, that's a huge gap just because one has a disability. Now, here's the employment gap for that. The employment population ratio is substantially lower for people with disabilities. highlighting a persistent employment gap, which is so true. That gap is there because you won't hire this individual, or because you don't have the resources. You don't have the resources because you don't have the knowledge, nor do you have the budget for it. The unemployment rate for people with disability was almost double of people without a disability in 2024. So can you imagine all of these able bodies able to work, and because they have a disability, they have to pick and choose how they're going to survive. And we're going to talk about that more later in the show. The stability, the unemployment population ratio for people with disabilities changed from 2023 to 2024 following a huge increase. I wasn't able to find the exact number. It was always in between this percentage and that percentage, but that gap is still in between that 22.7% and 65.5%. Now, here are the underlying factors. The lower employment population ratio for people with disabilities can also be attributed in part to the older age profile of the population, as older workers are generally less likely to be employed. And that's bad, because I've talked to a lot of seniors who have retired at age 55, 57, and after all the traveling, after babysitting the nieces, the nephews, the grandkids, they now look for part-time work because they're unable to survive on their monthly income, and they're bored. So the jobs that they get are slim to nothing. They're not even looked at because of a disability. Now, the wage gap and barriers far as lower earnings is concerned, in 2023, the median earnings for workers with disabilities were only about 66 cents for every dollar earned by workers without disabilities. So you're basically not paying them anything. 66 cents on the dollar. So if you have a $28,000 salary, your salary may be $15,000. And how can one live off that? Every area is different. Every situation is different. So you can't say this is going to work. Inaccessibility and the stigma, which means the physical barriers in workplaces and transportation, along with negative attitudes and stereotypes toward disabled people, create significant obstacles. And that is so true. I just mentioned companies may not have that ramp, or they may not have a ramp to go down coming in the inside where it's accessible throughout the entire office. Transportation, let's say they stayed in the suburbs and they didn't have access to the pace that comes and pick you up, or other transportations out here. It's hard for them to get on public transportation to get to work. So what do? They don't go to work. Now they get judged because of how they may look or how they may sound because of this disability. So there's a stigma along with the stereotype. So what happens? They don't work. People with disabilities don't work for that reason. They also have lack of opportunities. Standard education, inadequate training, and lack of work experience can hinder a person's ability, which is true. So let's say you own a bakery shop and a person with a disability comes in. You may look over that person to hire someone else, when this person very well that may have a disability can do the job if you train them. Do you have the training equipment? Was that in the budget? Did you plan for that when you opened your establishment? Was this a conversation that was had, or was it overlooked? So that's another hindrance for a person with disability. Lack of opportunities. Again, we go back to education and training. Where is the advanced education? Where is the more training for one with a disability so they can be able to go out into the workforce, so they can be invited into a judgment-free zone and they are not overlooked because of a disability? Elevated expenses. Disabled individuals face a higher cost of living due to expenses that non-disabled people do not, such as excessive technology, personal care, and housing and Medicare. Again, you may have to get a ramp built. You may have to get a special shower built in because the house or the apartment was not set up for that. The standard size desk, you may have to have that either higher or lower. It, whatever the disability is, you're going to come out of pocket spending money versus someone that does not have the disability. We have a comment. Hey, guess what, y'all? I can see who all. I see Joy. Hey, sis. And her comment was yep to what I was saying. Difficulty saving for the future. Low income and asset limits on public benefits make it nearly impossible to build savings or financial assets for people with disabilities. If you're only getting a certain amount of money, how can you save if it barely pays the bills? How? How can you do that? So here's a question that I have for the audience. When you think of a disability in work, what's the first financial challenge that comes to your mind? Because I've had conversations with people, I've heard a lot of cap on my money. So if I receive disability or whatever income I receive through the federal government, I'm capped at making a certain amount. I can't make over that amount unless I jeopardize getting my benefits. That should be. But that's just my answer. So I invite you all to answer that question. When you think of a disability in work, what's the first financial challenge that comes to your mind? See how I said finances act on everything that you do, which they do. So, financial independence and stability. Employment offers a stable income, enabling individuals to meet their own needs and reduce their dependency on public assistance programs. There are 13.2 million individuals who think about this. And when they can't access it, guess what happens? They result to anxiety, depression, and then suicide. Just because the lack of training, the lack of income, the lack of resources, the lack of jobs, just because they have a disability. Let me tell you what I learned in church. We all are equal. We are all created in God's image. So if you got one leg, two legs, three legs, you are still an individual. Your disability should not cap your earnings. That's what I learned in church. Now, increased earning potential is out there. Competitive employment provides earnings compared to segregated settings. And what that means is that you have some companies out here that will hire persons with disabilities and will hire them and them only because they plan for that. There's this non-for-profit organization, and I love this organization, Misericordia. Everything they do, 80% of their workers and their staff is the people that live there. They bake, they garden, they go out and they raise money, and they give out jelly beans. Them jelly beans good too. But no, so they're capable of doing this. Improve quality of life. Financial stability contributes to overall well-being, boosting self-esteem and providing the means to pursue goals and enhance your everyday living status. Self-esteem. I gotta have it. I need it. That's my drive. That's my go-to. But how can I get it when the door is consistently being closed in my face? That's a problem. Access to better employment opportunities. Supported employment programs help individuals secure more competitive and higher paying jobs, which are key to achieving financial stability. Now, we're going to get into that more later in the show because it is some programs out here for people with disabilities who can get a job and make a nice salary. And I was so elated to find that out. You find out a lot of stuff when you do research, especially when you like me and don't know, but also being nosy about what's out there because I need to know. And because I also work with a large community of individuals, you never know who's going to ask a question. I want to be prepared. If I don't know the answer, I want to know where to go look and get the answer. So, for employers, when dealing with ones with disability, they encounter diverse perspectives, better marketing understanding, lower turnover rate, higher productivity, enhanced reputation. Misericordia is one. I just said that. The couple weeks that I worked there, of course, I'm not going to lie, I lived in the bakery. That bread was good. The snacks were good. But when it comes to diverse perspectives, inclusive teams bring together different experiences, backgrounds, and ideas, leading more creative solutions and innovative approaches to challenges. That is so, so, so important. Just think about how much you can get done with a diverse population. And not just even with a diverse population, just different mindsets and different backgrounds. Just like the team that I work with, each one of us have different backgrounds. We bring something uniquely to the team when we sit and we have our meetings because one don't know everything. And I learn from these people. I take away what they have because it's something that I was not aware of. Better marketing. Diverse employees can better understand and serve diverse customer bases, which helps capture new market. So let's just say you have a disabled person wanting to go to a location, but for fear of the stigma that's out there, they may not go into that location. Whereas they may feel more comfortable if another individual with a disability is out there marketing. Now they feel more accepted to come into that establishment. And guess what? They're going to tell everybody they know. Everybody. So now that's more for the employer. When it comes to turnover rate, the employees in inclusive environments feel valued and respected. That's with any job, though. As long as you value and respect me, you're going to get the best up out of me because I value and respect you. Again, because I have a disability, that should not determine who I am as an individual. Get to know me first. And I think a lot of us don't take that time to do that. We don't. I said productivity, higher productivity and engagement. A feeling of belonging and support improves employee well-being, engagement, and productivity. You walk in, you're going to get a smile, you're going to get a hug They're going to speak. I don't care what the night before or day looks like. Versus someone without a disability, they may or may not speak. You don't know what you're going to get. And that's why you see a lot of reviews. It comes down to customer service. You could just think about it when you go to the store. If someone doesn't greet you, how does that make you feel versus to when they do greet you? I don't care if I do walk in the store and I got an attitude. You speak to me, I'm going to be like, hey, how you doing today? It don't matter what my day look like. But because you took the time to speak to me, that says something. And I love that. I love that. The productivity is going to be there because people with disabilities want to work. They feel as though they have something more to prove because they are being overlooked, looked at, and potentially judged. For that segment, I have a question. How does financial independence affect mental health and family stability? That's a good one. Financial independence affect mental health and family stability. If your mental is not there, how can you focus? Because if you come to my place of employment and I'm paying you to be on the clock and you can't work, that's a problem. I'm paying you just to sit here. Absolutely not. There's times I have sat here and wanted to continue to work because I had to finish something, but I did not feel productive. And I will call the business project manager. Hey, what you think I should do? If you're not going to be productive, get off the clock. Walk away, come back in a couple hours, reset, get your mind right, lay down, come back and do it again. Because now your head is clear. It's there, you're focused. So that's my answer for that. Now, for individuals, the challenges and financial setbacks that they face. Healthcare and basic needs are considered a trade-off, which means healthcare may not pay for it. So that means I can't get it. Or if I do get it, I can't have that because I have to let something go so I can afford this. Limited income often forces choices between food, housing, medication, and medical care. I had some conversations with some people just this year. Medication has increased drastically. Rent has increased drastically. If you're only getting $1,000 a month and your medication has jumped from $80 a month to $150 a month, now you're forced to choose. That's not right. That's not fair. You shouldn't be forced to choose between getting your medicine or housing. The financial strain that it creates builds a hindrance for the mental health. The social stigma hurts opportunities because you have bias and stereotypes, and the stigma also impacts networking and advancement. You don't want to be looked at like this. You don't want to be looked at like that. During my time of scrolling through social media, I follow a lot of families on social media, and it's this little girl I love to watch. Her name is Dallas, and she's a nonverbal child, and the love that her mother has for her is man, she is a mother to no core. But however, she made a post one day, and the post said, please inform and teach your children that it is okay to be friends with a person that is handicapped. You don't have to laugh at them or stare at them or ask questions. They're human. If you cut them, they're going to bleed red just like you're going to bleed red. So we got to get better with this. When it comes to employers, the bias still exists for hiring people with disabilities. Many employers hold unconscious or conscious negative assumptions about the abilities of a disabled worker. You feel like because they're disabled, they can't work. That's not true. Again, I follow another gentleman. He has two artificial legs and no arms. He cooks, cleans, and goes everywhere for himself. There's a lady that I follow. She has no arms. She does everything by herself. So because you assume that this can't be done because there's a disability attached, we need to let go of that stigma that need not be there. That stereotype need not be there, because that person can very well do the job probably better than you or I. So we as a whole need to step back. Now, accessible gaps. Workplaces may lack ramps, accessible bathrooms, digital accessibility, which means we're in a technology-based world. So if you don't have that technology base there for that person that's disabled, that's a problem. That is a problem, because how can they work? How can they be productive? How can they show up for you? They're unable to show up because there is lack of everything. They're unable to go to the restroom because it's not accessible. But now our world is changing and has done so many changes. I'm so excited about that. I'm just very elated about that. We got some people that just came in. So want to say hello to Jessie Scott. What's up, Jessie? Hey, my sister. My sister on here. I love you. I love everybody on here. Now we're going to talk about the low awareness and accommodations. Many accommodations are simple and inexpensive, averaging under $500, but employees don't know this. So, to get that ramp built, to have someone with a disability work for you can be under $500. You won't know that because you didn't do the research, or no one is there to do the research or the marketing for you, so you can hire people with disabilities. That technology system that needs to be there, whatever needs to be there for the vision impaired or hearing impaired, those prices can be under $500. But you have to be willing to do the research for people with disabilities so they can work and bring to the table productivity. If you don't bring it, how can you hire them? Perceived high costs equal missed opportunities. Fear of expense keeps employers from hiring inclusively, even through inclusive practices. That is sad. You rather hire someone and have a higher turnover rate than to hire someone that is going to come to work for you. Please make that make sense to me. I don't understand that. You will not hire a person with a disability because they have a disability, but you will hire your friend who you know may or may not show up to work, but because that's your friend, you're going to hire your friend. That's not right at all. That's not right. We as employers need to find out what's available. So when these company meetings are being held, you want to talk about people with disabilities. You need to know the act on that. You need to know how you can get inclusive with these programs that's out here, so the peoples with disabilities can receive a fair earnings versus 66 cents on a dollar. The systematic issues that come into factor are infrastructures fall short, public spaces, transport, housing exclude people with disabilities. And that's true. That is so true. I've talked to a couple people with disabilities. Not even that. I'll give you one better. You know, you guys know I love talking about Law and Order. So I was watching Law and Order, and this is Law and Order SVU, and it was a Down syndrome couple that had got pregnant, and the mom didn't want the daughter to have the baby because she was afraid the baby was going to have Down syndrome. But had, like the teacher said, they stayed in school, they got the learning, the adult learning, they could very well raise a baby. So for fear of you not wanting to put your child in that learning school or educate them, you lose out on so much. And why? It's not necessary. We as employers got to get better with that. Disincentive to work. People may avoid jobs for fear of losing disability benefits. I said that earlier. That should not have a bearing. You should not have to choose in between living and working. If you live, you're going to be capped off receiving this much a month. But if you want to work, you're going to lose that, what you're going to get. So you may have to go out here and work 1 or 2 jobs just to provide. The way that the economy is going, everybody in the house need a job. Even if you got a fur baby, the dog need a job. The turtle, anybody in the house need a paycheck coming in because the price of everything is now so expensive. Ableism is the root cause. The cultural belief that disability equals less capable fuels discrimination, systematic barriers, and financial exclusions. That's sad. Again, we need to get better at what we're doing and how we're doing. We have a comment. Joy says, they have the right to work for people. And Joy, you are absolutely right. They should not be discriminated against. Again, so what if they have a disability? They are just as human as you and I. So thank you for that feedback. You are absolutely right. So I have a question for that for all who's listening. Have you or someone you know ever had to choose between keeping benefits and earning more money? Well, because I'm an accountant, I know a lot of people. We have these conversations yearly, some monthly, some quarterly. Shavana, what am I going to do? I went and picked up this extra job, but this is going to get cut because I'm making this much. Or I can't get this because I got this much. I'm losing. I'm not even winning, and I'm trying to get ahead. And I understand that. So I'm going to give you some resources. And think about that question. Joy says she uses this program. That's what's up, Joy. Whatever program you use, because we got people all over watching. Can you drop that program into the comments for us, please? So they have work incentive programs, which is the Ticket to Work, which is a Social Security Administration program offering free support services. Job Accommodation Network, which is JAN, a free service from the U.S. Department of Labor providing expert technical assistance on job accommodations and Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. Ability Jobs, that's a job board specifically for people with disabilities, also featuring career guidance and resume development resources. American Job Centers, local centers that provide a variety of employment and training services to people with disabilities. The Right to Work, which is correct, which is Social Security again. And again, know your rights. You have rights. That's why I said the Americans with Disability Act. That is an act. You have a right. For employers, those are who in fear of hiring with disabilities. You have what you call a write-off. Who don't like write-offs? Who don't like deductions? Everybody, because you don't want your taxable income to be a high amount that you're paying taxes on. So you're going to look for every deduction that you can get. And guess what? You will qualify for the Work Opportunity Tax Cut. That is a federal tax credit program that rewards employers for hiring individuals from targeted groups, including peoples with disabilities. creating inclusive financial wellness programs. Small Business Administration provides resources and guidance for businesses, including connecting them with skilled employees with disabilities through a public workforce. So, you have an experienced person with a disability that can come in and train your staff to hire people with disabilities so they can do the job. And why won't employers do it? Because A, they don't know about it. B, they're afraid. And C, they don't want to be attached to the stigma and the stereotypes. But we're going to get better. We also have the U.S. Department of Labor, which offers technical assistance to employers for recruiting, hiring, and retaining employees with disabilities through the Employer Assistance and Resource Network and Disability, called EARN. That's a lot of information. And again, I encourage you to watch the show, share this information. You never know who may need it. You just never know. Even if you don't watch it, share it. You never know who this is going to help. You just never know. We got to stay connected. If we can share and make other things go viral, we can make financial literacy go viral. Wait, free financial literacy go viral. So like, comment, share the content. It takes 2 seconds. Subscribe to that YouTube page, because I'm still having conversations with individuals about 1099s, W-2s, what's on the tax return, a deduction. I'm still having these conversations. Although these conversations are going to continuously go on and on, but if you subscribe to that YouTube channel, you will be able to see all of that information that I put up, and it's available. And I'm going to give you something to reflect on. How can we, as individuals and communities, turn awareness into action, not just in October, but every day, to ensure financial equity for people with disabilities? Remember, I said earlier, I always talked about wanting to be invited to the round table. I say we set up our own round table in the community. We get stuff done. We get petitions done. We go out and we talk to people. We meet people. You never know who you're going to come in contact with. You just never know. I hear a lot of people, especially the people I work closely with, say, oh my God, your energy is so good. You are a people's person. You this. And I wouldn't think that, because I'm to myself. I don't bother you. You don't bother me. But it never fails. I think my marketing is my hair, because when people see the colors, they automatically stop. So now here comes the conversation. Because once you stop and ask me about my hair, I'm going to ask you about taxes. If you ask me a question, I'm going to ask you a question. And it's a whole conversation. And now we sitting there laughing and talking. We done missed 4 buses and 2 trains. And both of us late going to where we going. But it's okay. That's why it's important to share the information. Something else to reflect on. What do you think is the number one barrier to financial stability for people with disabilities? If I had to guess, I would say the fear and lack thereof of having those resources, or knowing who to contact for resources to hire individuals. That's my answer, but that's something for you to think about. Feel free to answer these questions. Send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Email me. Let me know what you're thinking. Send me a text or call me. Believe it or not, I have a couple people that always call me after the show, and we talk about it, because again, this information is important. So your key takeaways today are: people with disabilities face financial and employment challenges rooted not just in personal circumstances, but in systematic, social, and structural barriers. Employment impacts income, healthcare benefits, retirement savings, and independence. Because again, if you don't have that money available, if it's not there, how can you survive? The price of everything is increasing at an alarming rate. I think last week I shared the grocery store, like just fresh vegetables and fruit, even on sale. You get about maybe 10 or 12 of those items, you at $120 already. So how can one that's trying to survive, that has to choose receiving a monthly income and work, and then being capped or getting cut off? That's just something to think about. Something to really think about. So those are some key takeaways that I have for you. Now, as we come to a close and we wrap up this show, I know I gave you a lot of information, but again, I'll recap those programs for you, which is the Ticket to Work through the Social Security Administration. You have JAN, which is the Job Accommodation Network. You have the Abilities Jobs, which is also another state program. And you have the American Job Centers that you could also contact. Get with your local state and get into your community and see what's also available for you. But October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. This is a time to celebrate the value and talent people with disabilities bring to the workforce, while also highlighting the financial and systematic barriers they face. Employment just isn't a paycheck. It's dignity, independence, and the ability to build a secure future. Who don't want a secure future? October also brings other awarenesses, as I talked about at the beginning of the show, which is mental health, domestic violence, breast cancer, mental health week, and book month. If we closely look at all of these, they connect to our finances and well-being. From navigating healthcare costs to financial dependency and abusive situations, our money and our lives are deeply intertwined. And just think about it. With everything that we're observing, again, it goes back to your mental health. If your mental health is not at rest and at peace, you are not able to focus on anything. And because of what we are bringing and making aware in the month of October, some of these topics are very sensitive. Domestic violence is very sensitive, and it also hits home. Breast cancer, that's very sensitive and also hits home. Cybersecurity, that's very sensitive and hits home, because we're in a technical world now. So if your system is hacked and they take everything, your mental is not going to be right at all. If you have been through domestic violence or know somebody that has been through domestic violence, you were also impacted. If you know someone or have been through breast cancer or any type of cancer, that hits home. And these are touchy subjects, and they also affect finances. And that's why we bring this show to you every week, to let you know that we are here. We hear you. We understand. We want to help you, because everything starts and ends with a transaction. So, as a community, take action. Check in on yourself and others. Have the tough conversations. Advocate for inclusion and strengthen your financial foundation. That's what we're doing on this podcast. That's why I want y'all to share the content. Awareness matters only if it leads to change. Again, awareness matters if it leads to change. If we can make a pair of shoes go viral, if we can make our kids' dancing video go viral, we can make this information go viral, because it may be some employers out here that don't know about this, that may want to hire, and again, they are just unaware. So let's make the change by making a stance. Again, awareness matter only if it leads to change. Together, we can create communities where everyone has the chance to live with dignity, security, and hope. That's powerful. So, I know I gave y'all a lot of information, and I want to say hey to everybody that's listening, that's gonna listen in, that's tuning in, that's giving feedback. Like, I appreciate you all. You all keep me going. You keep me on my toes. The research itself is phenomenal. And as I was sitting here doing my research and I was looking for some information, out of nowhere, it hit me. Wait, Shavonna, you don't have a digital access plan put together. What if something happens? So now I had to stop in my tracks and start creating it. And then I created it and didn't save it and lost it. So now I got to do it all over again. That was very right of me. But just some things that I've talked about, I have to go back and revisit and put into play. And I want to get into a habit of now doing it every 6 months instead of annually, because things change often, very often. And again, mental health is not just for May, June, September. Again, it's for every day of our lives, because without our brain functioning, our body not functioning. We're just here. So, as always, y'all know every show is amazing. But our next episode that's airing on Saturday, October 11th, oh, it's going to be hot again on that day. We'll be diving into a powerful and important conversation. October is not only about financial awareness and disability employment, it is also observed for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We'll be joined by a very special guest who will help us shed light on a deep connection between domestic violence, finances, faith, and survival. You know, everybody, I'm going to stop right here. I encourage y'all to tune in, because in some way, shape, form, or fashion, we have all been a victim of domestic violence. If you are unable to come on for that 2 hours or listen for that 2 hours, go back and watch it at another time. This is going to hit fathers, because no father wants to see their mother, sister, aunt, daughter, niece be abused in any way. This is going to hit mothers, because they don't want to see this for their loved ones. It's a domino effect. So it may be emotional. And I'm going to ask everybody to participate, because, again, this is a safe space that Anointed Accounting provides. And whether you understand or know it or not, forms of domestic violence encompasses not only your mental well-being, but your finances. Period. I know I got a lot of stuff to shed. Together, we'll talk about the seen and unseen signs of abuse, how financial dependency can trap victims in unsafe situations, and why financial education and planning can sometimes be the key to breaking free. This isn't just about money. It's about safety, empowerment, and building the tools to move forward. Because, again, sometimes we think we've moved forward and we haven't. We've just buried that stuff down because it's out of sight, out of mind. We don't think about it anymore. And when we get a trigger or something happen and it resonates with us, that's when everything comes up. If you or someone you know has ever wondered how finances impact freedom, choice, and survival, this is the conversation you do not want to miss. So I expect to see everybody next Saturday with the guests, and the guests with the guests, and the guests with the guests with the guests with the guests, because this is going to be powerful. We're talking about healing, finances, faith, dependency, signs that's seen and unseen. It is so much that goes into domestic violence that's going to be talked about on this segment, October 11th. So again, I am on all social media platforms under Anointed Accounting, ANOINTED ACCOUNTING. You can go to the website at www.anointedaccounting.com. Our telephone number is area code 312-837-7219. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for loving me, because I love you all endlessly. You all have a good weekend. For those special birthdays that have passed and the ones that's coming up, let's get it in. Birthday cake. Birthday cake. I love y'all. Bye.